Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
Take 6. You have time for this podcast today now?
I always make time for this podcast.
Yeah, me too. I love this podcast. The title of today's podcast is
Intentional timeliness.
Exactly. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Prime Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Skip Wyss, and I have the amazing, wonderful Dr. Fairy Fingers with me today, my spouse, my incredible life partner, my business partner, Dr. Julie Wyss. It is so nice to have you here today, as usual, and it's just been so nice to be a co-host with you and have you on. And today we're talking about time and being intentional with our time. I think a lot of times people think that they feel like they're not intentional with their time. They feel like they want time back. And time is the one thing that is constantly moving. It never stops. And it is the most valuable piece of currency known to man. How do you feel parents and business owners can better maximize their time while they're here on earth?
Well, talking about, days and time is numbered. It's being intentional. We've talked a lot about setting boundaries, your non-negotiables. And sometimes I think things have to happen for us to really put things into perspective. But it's really figuring out like what you truly want to do and developing, if it's your business or your family, around the things that you want to do. So many people have the complaints of, well, I don't have time to travel. Well, you just didn't make time to travel.
Yep.
You do the things that if you want to travel, then what are the things that you need to put in place to allow you to be able to travel?
Okay.
And so it's figuring those things out and doing those things.
It
but
goes
then
on the calendar.
when that time comes, then you have to do that travel. You can't put all these things into place and then not actually do that travel. Things are always going to pop into our schedules, but it's really taking note of, okay, if I'm going to earmark this time, nothing else can pop into that time slot. You've marked that time, and sometimes people can get really efficient with their calendars, and then they free up all this time and they forget what they wanted that time to be for, and then it gets wasted.
I suppose, yeah, because they're not intentional then with their time. So, and I find that when you schedule stuff on your calendar, oftentimes a lot of people don't hold themselves accountable to the time that they've scheduled. So even if it's a vacation, if it's a trip, whatever, the current topic you're talking on, they'll talk themselves out of it, or they'll convince themselves to do something else with their time when they had the right intention when they wrote it down in the first place. And just because it's on a calendar doesn't mean you're going to do it. It's a great first step. It's a great first step. But then you have to hold yourself accountable to stick to that timeline, to stick to the boundaries you've set for your time.
I think it's a lot like dieting, right? If you go into the thought process that I'm going to maybe change a lifestyle, I'm going to eat a certain way, I'm going to exercise, but if you haven't told anybody else of those plans, it's a lot easy to let your accountability fall to the wayside.
Yeah.
And so what I found is when you let other people know of your intentions of, okay, this is my time, this is what I'm going to do with it, hold me accountable, then you have other people that you can't always sneak away from something, right? That other person's going to call you on it to make sure of like, no, you set this time aside, this is what you're supposed to be doing.
And those are the useful steps. Yeah, have accountability. And I mean, some people don't necessarily need accountability, but a majority of us do. That's why we have really good coaches. That's why we have people in our business life and in our personal life to help hold us accountable and help us make sure that we achieve the goals that we had set down. I think that is one of the things is that I'm personally, that I fall short on a lot is I don't stick to my timelines. I don't stick to what I put down on a calendar because I change things, and that's not okay because then things don't get done. Then stuff doesn't get done in a timely manner or completed. It gets half done, and that's just not okay.
but I think things are fluid. Things can change.
Right.
And so when I work with my clients on coaching, lots of times it can be, why did that change? Was it
Mm-hmm.
because your trajectory or your goal maybe shifted, right? So it's just understanding of, okay, why did you choose to not do that, or why did you choose to change that? And if it's still in trajectory of where you want to go, then that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if it comes back later on of like, well, I didn't meet this goal, or I didn't get to do that because we keep changing that path, then what is the underlying reason why we are always navigating away from that destination that we want?
Yeah, and I think the other thing we can talk about is time, being intentional with time with our loved ones, the people in our lives, the people that we love and account the most for, and being super intentional with the time that we have with them, because our time here on earth is short. It goes fast, and like that is one of the things that everybody wishes they had time back when they lose a loved one, or they lose a spouse or a dad or a mom. They wish they had time back. And I can tell you, you can wish it all you want. It's not going to come back. But the other side of it is that be intentional with your time when you're with the person. When you're with your loved one, when you're with your spouse, the person in your life that you love the most, your children, your mom, your dad, your grandparents. Time on this earth goes very, very fast, and it can be gone in a blink of an eye. But if you're intentional with it and you actually made the most of your time with the person, that's the key. And did you, in your mind, you can't look at it as, did you log enough hours?
For some people, it may only be 15 minutes.
Yep.
Right? If that's what that is, of just that intentional check-in, but it's intentional, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've blocked out everything else. So that's going to be completely different for everyone.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with your children. It's the same thing with your sons and your daughters, is what can we do when you're with them? You don't have to make an impact every time you're by them. You don't have to try to make a life event every time you're around them. Or I hate that when people say, well, I just want to create more memories and every day is a memory day. Is it a memory day to you, or is it a memory day to them? Is it something that they're going to remember, or is it something that you're trying to remember in your mind? Either way, there's not a good or a bad to that. It's not selfish. But remember, sometimes the time that they want with you is not the time that you want with them. And what I mean by that is, you may want to go ziplining, or you may want to go walk through the woods, or you may want to go on a trip. But maybe they just want to sit by you on the couch. Maybe they want to just spend time with you, hold your hand, and talk to you. And sometimes just something as simple as hanging out and watching the football game.
It's being intentional at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Being present, being just around that person. And sometimes if it's not in person, right, it's checking in. If it's a text message, if it's a phone call, if it's a, popping on, FaceTime with that person.
Mm-hmm.
And as like, we have younger children right now, but as they get older, right, those things of what they're going to want and how we want to meet them is going to change.
It is going to change. And that is something that we just need to understand. And even as parents that listen to this, and families and entrepreneurs and everyone out there, that is the game, the chase, the run that we're in is to constantly chase time. But what you need to realize is that time is always around you, time is always with you, and you just need to know how to use it. And then when you're in business, how can you possibly bend it to double and triple your time at one time? And that's a whole nother episode. Today's episode was dedicated to my dad.
Who I think has set a amazing foundation, has taught us how to best use our time,
And not taught us how to use our time very well either.
but to show us how to now be intentional with it.
Yeah. My dad passed away literally the other day. So this one's pretty raw, and this one's short, but it's time. And be intentional with your time. so you don't wish you had time back. And I don't wish I had time back with my dad. I'm just super grateful for the time I had. So, for all of you out there who listen and watch and understand, time is invaluable. Just be super intentional with it, so you don't regret not taking the time you needed, and be super grateful for the time that you have with the people in your life, and make sure that your intention is there and you're focused, and you can just have the most quality time with them as possible. That's the key. Plug into them in front of you and unplug from the sources that are around you.
I like that.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Go out there, spend time with the most important people in your lives, and be intentional with it. We'll see you all next week, and thanks for spending time with us today. Bye, everyone.